Hey everybody, Motorpoet 59 here. It is 5 days till the election, and this is my election quick reference guide for the measures that are going to be on the ballot for California. And I got this, I don't know, it came in the mail a month ago or so, whenever, I don't even remember. And as I always do, I sat down right then and read the text of all these proposals. Some of them actually don't require reading. If it's a bond, I'm going to vote against it. I don't care what it's for. Bond is just another word for tax. Somebody has to pay for this down the road, and it's me and you, the taxpayer. In this instance, the California taxpayer. And when these things pass, we have to pay for them, whether we agree with them or not. Just like Obamacare. I don't use Obamacare. If I wanted to get Obamacare, it would cost me a small fortune. So I don't like Obamacare, but I have to pay for it anyway. The only difference is, at least I have a say in whether or not these bills get passed. With Obamacare, they just shoved it down our throats, and we didn't get to vote on it. So whenever you have the opportunity to vote on measures, when you get these things in the mail, if you see this before the election or before the next election, when you get one of these, get this out and read it and see what these bills say. If more people had read these things over the years instead of just voting based on the title of it or what somebody told them about it or some commercial on TV, we probably wouldn't have as many stupid laws and programs going on in California right now. So let's start with Proposition 14, authorizes bonds continuing stem cell research initiative. You know what? This is not something the government should even be involved in. Stem cell research, big farm, the big pharmacy companies, private industry, let the private sector deal with that. This is something to grab people's heartstrings and say, oh, if we do stem cell research, we'll be able to cure cancer in 5 years. That's not realistic. It's not true. Will stem cell research help us find maybe not cures, but treatments for it? Yeah, I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying we shouldn't have to pay for it. 15, increases funding sources for public schools, community college, and local government services by changing tax assessment of commercial. This is a bill to change the way property taxes work. Do not vote yes on this. Vote no. This is going to increase property taxes. It's not going to help anyone, because when those taxes go up, answer me right now. Ask yourself and answer the question. Have increased taxes ever helped you? Have they ever helped your life get better? No, they haven't. And increasing property taxes isn't going to help that either. And I've always said that if you want to write a bill to get people to vote yes on it, who you know aren't going to read the text of a bill, all you got to do is put in education, kids, or the elderly, and everybody goes, oh God, we got to vote for that. But the fact is, this isn't going to help public schools or community colleges. It's going to help the government services that get the money from the taxes. Going to help them pad their tax base, but they're not going to use that money. Chances are that tax increase isn't going to meet criteria that are written into these bills that will release those funds to schools, whether they're elementary schools or colleges. Number 16, allows diversity as a factor in public employment, education, and contracting decisions. This is a racist law. Even black contractors are against this law. This is blatantly racist. This is worse than affirmative action. It's not going to help put minorities of any color to work. Say if you are a contractor and you're black, you may not have a bunch of black people working for you. You have the best people you can get working for you doing the job, and you're paying them a good wage. And if this passes, it's going to force contractors to hire minorities. And let's just be honest, this is about blacks. That's what this is about. It's going to force them to hire blacks who may or may not want to work in that field. Say you're a general contractor and you're building houses. or you're an electrician, or you're a plumber, whatever, you're going to have to go out and solicit black people who may be good hands and may not, rather than just hiring people you know are good hands and have experience. Or, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't hire black people. Hire the best people for the job. It doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter what sex they are. They're good for the job. Hire them. If they don't work out, get rid of them. But you shouldn't be allowed to be forced by the government to hire people who may or may not work out. And then, once they're hired under this program, you won't be able to just fire them because they suck. You'll have to go through tons of red tape to do that. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible proposition. 17, restores right to vote after completion of prison term. Legislative constitutional amendment. Right now, if you are a convicted felon and you're on parole, you've been released, you are not allowed to vote. As a matter of fact, you really don't have many constitutional rights once you're a convicted felon. In theory, I don't have a problem with this once somebody has served their time or whatever. But the simple fact is, like any other bill that involves crime or proposal that involves crime, these people knew what they were getting into when they committed the crime. They knew the consequences of going to jail, and they know the consequences of being a convicted felon, and they still chose to make that decision. Live with it. Basically, I'm going to vote no on this. I wouldn't argue with somebody who was going to vote yes on it, but I'm not going to vote yes on it. Proposition 18 amends California Constitution to permit 17-year-olds to vote in elections. This is another terrible bill that is pandering to in this case, children. I sometimes wonder if we shouldn't have the vote age at 21, because I know that when I was 17, I took civics in school, U.S. government. I understood what Republicans and Democrats were, and I still had stupid ideas in my head. While I understood the basics, I wasn't smart enough to vote on propositions. I wasn't smart enough to look into things. I can remember thinking that Walter Mondale was cool because his son raced motocross. Walter Mondale was an idiot, a total idiot. But I thought he was cool because his son raced motocross. That's how 17-year-olds think. No, 17-year-olds don't need to vote. That's pandering again. It's a terrible idea. Kids don't need to be voting. Proposition 19 changes certain property tax rules. This is the one that proposes to save the elderly, anybody over 55, from property taxes. This is bogus, bogus, bogus. This is a terrible, terrible idea. This is another pandering proposition, pandering to senior citizens. I'm 61. The way this bill is written, wouldn't help me one single bit, and it's not going to help very many. It would help so few people, and they would have to fit in certain sectors, and they would have to meet certain criteria. The simple fact is that all this is going to do is jack tax up for other people and not help anybody else. If it says tax in it, I'm not going to vote for it, and neither should you. Proposition 20 restricts parole for certain offenses currently considered to be nonviolent, authorizes felony sentences for certain offenses currently treated only as misdemeanors. I'm going to vote yes on this one, and the reason I'm going to vote yes on it is because it's one of those ones that's kind of confusing. If you vote yes, that means the people who commit these certain crimes could receive increased penalties, additional factors considered for the state's process for releasing certain inmates from prison early. This actually could create harsher sentences. It probably won't. Things will probably just stay the same, and it could change the criteria for early releases, where people wouldn't get released so easily before their time is up. I don't know how I feel 100% about the early release program. I think probably case to case, but people who've committed violent crimes have said they should never be released early, ever, under any circumstances. People say, oh, but my son, he's a kleptomaniac and he shoplifts, and he shouldn't have to spend 5 years in prison for that. Look, when you commit a crime, just like I said a while ago, you know you committed that crime. You don't accidentally stick things in your pocket. You don't accidentally drive 90 miles an hour, and you don't accidentally punch somebody in the mouth out in a parking lot over a parking place. You know you did that stuff. You knew what you were doing when you did it, and I don't care about people who've lost their tempers or people who are kleptomaniacs, whatever. You know the consequences, deal with them. Don't like it, like I said on the old Beretta show, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Stop sniveling, it's your problem. 21 expands local government's authority to enact rent control on resident. No. This is a terrible bill, a terrible proposition. This is the one that is supposed to help fix homelessness. These people who wrote this bill probably know the truth. People who fall for this bill don't understand the reality of the homeless. 90% of those people out there, that is the lifestyle they chose. And if you build some sort of place or control rent at some place so they can live there, all they're going to do is go in there, tear that place to pieces, and leave. They are not interested in being functioning, productive members of society. That is not their goal. The other 10%, these are the people that are in shelters and trying to get back on their feet, and they will eventually. They don't want to live like that. They don't want to be associated with the other 90%, and they will get back on their feet, and they don't need this kind of crap to help them do it. They actually need the local and state governments to get off their asses, stop wasting money on shit like high-speed rail, and start doing things that are going to help that 10%. The churches are already involved, the private sector's involved, and they're doing things to really help these people. The other 90%, they don't want your help, they just want your money. 22, exempts app-based transportation and delivery companies from providing employee benefits to certain drivers. Prop 22. I'm going to vote yes on this because yes, this is about the Uber and Lyft drivers. If you vote no on this, that means that these places like Uber have to hire drivers as employees and provide them with benefits and all the stuff that goes along with being an employee. They have to pay for unemployment insurance, all that stuff. They have to get involved in that. Yes means it just stays like it is. Go out and talk to, I've never used Uber or Lyft. I don't need that kind of a deal, but if you use them, ask those drivers. I'll bet you there isn't one driver who wants you to vote no on this. Most of these people do this with other jobs and things that's just extra money on the side. They make their own hours. You vote no on this and they have to hire these people as employees. Then these people have to have hours. They have to be here at a certain time. It's their job. And it messes up the way that business has always been done. I'm going to vote yes on this. Prop 23 establishes state requirements for kidney dialysis clinics, requires on-site professional. No, this is a terrible, terrible, terrible bill that would affect people currently receiving dialysis at places like DaVita. And the only reason I know the name of that is my daughter worked there for a while when she got out of her PA school, and I know that's what that company does. This would have a detrimental effect on companies like that. It would put the state government in charge of the criteria for people being treated, how much money they could receive from it would change all of that, and it would be very detrimental to the dialysis business, which means it would be very detrimental to people who require dialysis. I've never had kidney disease, but I've had kidney stones, and I've broken both my femurs and over 10 other bones. I've had operations and blown my shoulders out and blown my knees out, and I've never had anything as painful as kidney stones. My sister lost a kidney to an accident. She said that was the most pain she'd ever been in. People with kidney problems need to be treated, and the private sector is doing a great job of it. Do not allow the government to get their fingers in this. Vote no on this. 24, amends consumer privacy laws. Uh, I don't like the government getting involved in privacy laws. It's selling your information. These people aren't selling your bank accounts. They're selling your email address to people who can then send you things in your email and solicit you. Maybe your address, send stuff to your house. You know what? Delete it. Throw it away. Stop letting the government get involved in this stuff. The private sector does pretty good. Most sites that you go to now have a place where you can decide whether or not you allow them to use your information and give it to or sell it to other people. This bill wouldn't change that. They'd still do it. There's not enough oversight in the California government to stop the thousands and tens of thousands of online companies that can do this kind of stuff. And like I said, you don't like it, delete it. It's just junk mail. Prop 25, referendum on law that replaced a money bail with system based on public safety and flight risk. This is another horrible law. This is, if you vote yes on this, that means that people wouldn't have to pay bail to be released before trial. Instead, they would be released automatically based on their risk assessment, and you know that the courts aren't going to remand people because the jails in it are so overcrowded. But you know what? That's not my problem. And again, I say again, you knew when you committed that crime, you knew the consequences. You knew what might happen. You knew you might have to stay in jail for 6 months or a year before you got a trial. That's your problem. Don't make it mine. I don't want you back out on the street if you're some assault thug or somebody that the court just decided not to give you a bail. That's not my problem. I don't need you out on the street. Go to jail. Go in there and be a tough guy. If you're a gangbanger or whatever, go in there and be a tough guy. And I don't care if you're just a shoplifter. Don't shoplift. Keep this shit out of your pockets. So, yeah, I'm voting no on this, and so should you. If you vote no, things just stay the same, where you have to come up with bail. You know what? They could always sign a reduced bail initiative, where, because bail's 10%, most crimes that are committed, the bail isn't that high. $10,000. You got to come up with $1,000. If you ain't got $1,000, you ought not to be out there committing crimes because you know the consequences. Can't do the time, don't do the crime. Don't do it. Okay, so there are the measures. I strongly suggest, no matter which party you're in, no matter what you think or what you believe or how you feel about issues, that you get these out and read them thoroughly. And if you have any questions that aren't answered in here, you can get deeper into the wording of a bill, who sponsored it, issues like that, by going to the ca.gov website. Go to any of them, and I'm sure you can figure out a way to get to this. I've never had to use that for ballot stuff. But anyway, as I said, the biggest point of this is read these things. When they come in the mail, don't just throw them away and go about your housekeeping. Get these, take these down, preferably that night, and read them. Read them. Make sure you understand what every proposal is about before you decide on how to vote on it. Don't look at the title and think you know what it means. And as I said, you can always go to the bottom and get the information of the people who are supporting this bill and the people who are against it, and their information's in there. You can always email or call them and find out exactly why they support this bill and see if it lines up with what you think should be done. Because voting is about you. It's not about anything else. I mean, in the end, it's about how America or your state or your county or your city is going to be run. But it is absolutely the most important right we have as American citizens is to vote. And if you forfeit that, if you don't go vote because you just don't think it matters or you don't care, you're doing yourself and the country a great disservice. But anyway, there you go. There are the measures. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Shoot me an email at motopoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. And we'll see you all later, maybe at the polls.